Florida Gator quarterback battle is something that has dominated the offseason news cycle, and honestly, for good reason. But we finally have a look at it from inside the program, and it provides us with great insight on what is actually going on. We've also heard an update from someone close to the program about the battle, and we'll share that in just a few minutes. So let's go ahead and jump right in. This week at SEC Media Days, the Gators had two offensive players that spoke up when asked about the quarterback battle. And this is actually really encouraging for me because a lot of times guys don't really want to say much of anything, particularly if it's in a battle that hasn't maybe been announced as settled. But I thought what they said, and also almost more importantly, what they didn't say when asked about the quarterbacks was very, very telling. Ricky Pearsall got to go to SEC Media Days this year. Everybody talked about his outfit, his shoes. He was definitely looking very dapper there. He burst onto the scene last year as one of Napier's portal pickups. We know that Billy Napier did incredible in the portal last year, and Pearsall was one of the very best that came in. He had a wonderful debut season for the Gators and then decided to stick around one more season before he inevitably goes and tests the NFL waters. He goes into this season as wide receiver 1. He's the guy. So I definitely give some weight to his opinion at quarterback. So I'm going to tell you two quotes that came from Ricky Pearsall. The first one is about Graham Mertz, and the second one is about Jack Miller. About Mertz, he said, the experience and how mature of a guy he is. One thing that immediately stood out to me is how smart he is, his IQ on the field. As soon as I met him, we started talking about different coverages, different routes, during different types of coverages, and that just really stood out to me. He is a really good friend to me too. Okay, so that was Ricky Pearsall talking about Graham Mertz. Now listen to what Ricky Pearsall had to say about Jack Miller. He has a really good arm. Me and him actually go way back because he's also an Arizona kid. So I've known him for a long time and been throwing with him for a long time. He is extremely talented, extremely smart, and has a good head on his shoulders. All right, so keep those quotes in mind as we move on through this. Another guy whose opinion I take pretty darn seriously is offensive lineman Kingsley Eguakun. He is honestly the heart of Florida's offensive line. He has started the last 26 consecutive games for the Gators over the past 2 seasons. And he had some interesting things to say as well about that quarterback battle. This is his quote. I think we have some pretty talented guys at the quarterback position, to be honest with you. I trust Coach Napier and his decision-making ultimately. Those guys are going to battle it out this fall to see who's going to want to be the guy. But I think all those guys have the right mindset. From what I've seen, they've all been attacking their summer grind, their summer workouts, and doing extra things to put themselves in play to be that guy. So that was Eguakun talking about the quarterback competition as a whole. I told you Ricky Pearsall's quotes a second ago, and I really think that what he said is pretty telling. The things that he said about Mertz versus Miller are pretty stark. Listen to how he goes into detail on coverages, maturity, routes, and more with his thoughts on Mertz. With Miller, his comments were nice and certainly complimentary, but there just wasn't that same level of detail. And what I think is that you can infer for yourself why that is, but I am just going to come right out and say it. It is obvious that the relationship with Mertz and Pearsall is that of a starting quarterback and a star wide receiver, and likely has been since day one. And I know that what Kingsley Eguakun said was, maybe a little bit of coach speak, but I also think that it's encouraging as well, but for a different reason than Pearsall's quotes. I think it emphasizes something that we for sure have been told over and over again by other people inside the program, that the work that these guys have been putting in has been just absolutely off the charts. Napier spoke about how Mertz has basically been doing 2-a-days since he got to campus, which that is great to hear. But I think that it speaks to the maturity that Pearsall sees and talked about in his quote. Want to know why I think Mertz, and honestly Miller, but mostly Mertz, is working so hard? He sees the tweets. He sees the doubters. He knows what the expectations are at Florida, and he wants to overcome them. He knows what this fan base are saying about him, and other fan bases too, right? He knows that some of you guys have doubts, which is fine, but he's working his ass off to try to be as good as he possibly can this season for one reason. The expectations at the University of Florida are great. They are very large, and he wants to live up to them. I told you all about some insight that we had gotten, and I don't think it's anything that's going to shock you. But this quarterback battle that we keep talking about is honestly not much of one any longer. We have been told that Graham Mertz will be named UF starter. This hasn't been made public, but it certainly is the expectation unless things are going to take a crazy turn. As far as a timeline, it would not shock me if the announcement came sooner rather than later. I understand gamesmanship and I understand trying to hold your cards close to the vest, but I do not believe that there is any advantage for Coach Napier to do that. I don't think he needs to save something for the Utah game or try and trick them into believing that one guy is going to start over the other. So my expectation is that an announcement is coming soon. Fall camp is just days away, and we are starting to get jacked for the season. We've asked you all to help us hit our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the Utah game, and you guys have been crushing it. We got asked a great question as to how this helps the audience while also helping the channel, and that's a phenomenal ask. The answer is simple. By hitting our goal, we are growing our community, which is outstanding, and it allows me to continue to do this content that you all enjoy for free on a regular basis. So hit that button and help me get there. We've got some more highlights of the quarterbacks courtesy of Inside the Gators. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
Okay, Gators, now repeat and cheer for the orange and blue!
And if you missed our most recent video on UF's shocking plans for the 2023 season, click right here.